All right. Well, everyone, my clock says it's time to get started. So I guess we'll go ahead and get started here if that's okay. And if you are going to have background noise, we will ask that you mute your phones while you're listening in. But if you have any questions, feel free to unmute and chime in. So our expert today for GROW Nebraska's May 3rd Thursday training is Julie Diegel from WasteCap Nebraska, and we're excited to have her. So WasteCap has been a GROW Nebraska member for a number of years now, and we always love promoting their sustainability summit. You said you were doing a luncheon this year, and I might ask you to talk a little bit about that too, Julie. But she is here today to talk about going green in your event planning and hosting company events so that you're not creating a lot of waste. So, Julie, if you want to take it away.
Great. Thank you so much, and thanks for letting me give this presentation today. We really appreciate what GROW Nebraska is doing, and you're doing great things for the state of Nebraska. So thank you very much. We appreciate
your presenting.
Sustainability perspective on things.
Yes.
Okay. Well, just a little bit about WasteCap Nebraska. We're a charitable nonprofit, statewide member-based organization. Our headquarters are in Lincoln. Our goal is to eliminate waste in Nebraska, and we do that through education, training, and services. We both work with businesses and communities to build zero-waste communities, and that involves things like policies, programs, infrastructure, and one-on-one assistance with businesses. So why would we bother in planning a zero-waste event? Well, first of all, we can do better. There was a Nebraska recycling study recently completed by the University of Nebraska Public Policy Center, Joslin Institute, and the UNL Bureau of Sociological Research. And WasteCap Nebraska was on the study committee. And they found out that the Nebraska recycling rate was only 17%. And get this, Kansas has a recycling rate of 32%. So come on, we can do better than that. Not that events happen every day, every hour in Nebraska, but events frequently generate a lot of waste, and a lot of it could be recycled or composted. And our recycling and compost infrastructure in Nebraska is not maybe the best, but it is available in many places. So, where it's available, I think it's worth our while to try to use it and have greener events. So my advice for planning a green or zero waste event is to begin planning for the zero waste event from the beginning of your planning. And secondly, to begin with the end in mind. And let me just break that down a little bit. First of all, let's define zero waste. Zero waste, according to the official definition of zero waste through the International Zero Waste Alliance, is that zero waste is a goal that is ethical, economical, efficient, and visionary to guide people in changing their lifestyles and practices to emulate sustainable natural cycles, where all discarded materials are designed to become resources for others to use. It's kind of a lot to digest. But what it means is that implementing zero waste will eliminate all discharges to land, water, or air that are a threat to planetary, human, animal, or plant health. This generally means that a zero waste event is a 90% waste diversion. That's a pretty high bar. But we can be talking about solid waste here, but it also can include reducing impacts from transportation and lodging and other considerations, depending on the nature of your event. And I know that for most of you, we're talking about events at your business possibly or in your community, but these are all considerations to make. So if we were to begin planning for a zero waste event from the beginning, we would want to consider these general principles. First, our greatest goal must always be to reduce consumption. So in the hierarchy of zero waste, the very top of the pyramid is reduce, and below that is reuse, and below that is recycle or compost, and below that it's landfill. To plan your zero waste event. So you can eliminate unnecessary items like inedible doilies, for example, or decorative toothpicks that can't be composted. You could use regular toothpicks, or you could use things that could be other things that could be composted or recycled. You can use reusable materials that are durable and cleanable. So, if you have a rental company in your town, I know that that's often skipped because of the expense, but sometimes it's less expensive than you realize, and it's certainly worth doing some research to see if, to compare the cost of using durable goods from a rental company versus disposables, single-use items that either are usually put in the trash. Recycling helps conserve natural resources, reduce pollution, generate less solid waste, and reduces the ongoing costs of extraction of natural resources. So that's a good thing. It's not the best, but it's a lot better than landfilling. Composting, organics account for a significant amount of solid waste that goes into our landfills. And they generate methane in landfills, which is a greenhouse gas that is much more potent than just common carbon dioxide. So it's important that we really try to reduce the amount of methane that's going to be produced, and that's all produced by organic materials that are landfilled. Just a side note, we last year, Nebraskans buried $87 million worth of materials that could have been recycled, and that's also in that Nebraska recycling study. So we've got a lot of work to do, and there's just no reason to be throwing money away and burying it in the ground, which is what we're doing, essentially. So there are actually some events, some zero waste events, that only have compost and recycling containers because there's such a controlled event that there's nothing that's going to the landfill, because it's an indoor and controlled event, and so they don't have to worry about anything that could be disposed of. Other considerations that might come into play when you're planning a zero waste, depending on the size and purpose of your event, is the destination. So let's just say if it's in your town, is the infrastructure sufficient to hold a zero waste event at this location or in your community? Some event locations make zero waste planning a lot easier. Some hotels will have sorting and collection containers for you, and they'll do signage for you, and they already have contracts with haulers for recyclers and even compost. So, and they actually track the weights for you. So it's a wonderful situation when you come across a vendor like that. Now, you need to think about vendors and caterers too. You need to include your vendors and caterers from the very beginning to be part of your zero waste plan, because you need their help to ensure success and give them time to alter their standard practices. Most people are not doing this, so you need to help them help themselves. For exhibitors, you need to provide them with guidelines early on what not to bring or hand out and suggestions for better choices, and I'll give you some ideas about that a little bit later. Transportation might be another consideration. Are there public transportation options near your venue selection, or can you encourage bicycle riding? Can you make it that sort of a, let's all get here by riding our bikes or something like that? Other things are accommodations. As I mentioned earlier, some hotel chains can support your efforts by tracking certain metrics for you. Hilton Omaha will do a lot of that stuff. Marketing and communications are very important, that from the beginning that you announce that this is going to be a zero waste event, to get people just to start thinking about what that means and getting on board with the idea, even if they don't really know what that means. And then the office procedures that you use, how you manage registrations, whether you do it online or whether you send invitations. How can you reduce waste? And that's mostly paper waste, but it's a lot easier than it used to be to do that because we do a lot of online registration now. So what you'll want to do especially if you have a bigger, more complex event, is to create a plan that will identify your event's sustainability objectives and how they will be achieved. So again, you want to involve and inform key players early on in the planning process to build support. And that's your venue, your vendors and caterers, the haulers that you're going to use for your recycling and trash and composting, and even your volunteers, and even your employees. So if you have a larger organization, you'll want to get commitment from your senior managers and employees so they understand that the zero waste event is important to you. You want to do some research on serviceware. So you'll want to look at your local rental company. You'll want to look at, what distributors have either recyclable or compostable serviceware if you're serving food or beverages. And what other kind of zero waste equipment might you need? Will you need compostable bags if you're going to do compost? Will you need zero waste stations? All sorts of things. Will you want to offer beverages in bulk so you don't end up with lots of water bottles, for example? And you'll want to contact your service providers, rental companies, again, if you want to use durable service ware, recycling companies, the compost haulers, and so on, and determine what they will and will not accept. So, for example, if you work with a recycling company and you have a good example would be paper coffee cups. If you work with a recycling company that sends that collects things in a single stream so that everything's mixed together, a lot of MRFs, which are material recovery facilities, the big MRFs, they're all automated, and they'll read those paper coffee cups as aluminum cans. So what happens is they get landfilled when they're mixed like that. If you know that, you can probably segregate those paper coffee cups, and so the recycler can take them separately, and they can probably handle them like that. But when they're mixed in a single stream, they're not necessarily recycled. So those are the kind of things you want to, you really have to talk to that recycling company about. Okay, here's what I'm planning on doing. Will this work? And ask them, what kind of contamination would make this not recyclable? If there's food residue, for example, how much food residue is acceptable on what material? If you're planning to divert compostable food containers, you'll want to be sure that your service provider, your compost company, has the ability to compost those particular items, and find out, not every compost facility will take everything that's certified compostable, because their operation may not get hot enough or processed in a way that it really can break those materials down quickly enough. So that's just another consideration. And you might want to ask them, how are you going to haul these materials? If you're having a larger event especially, how are you going to haul these materials? Can they be in plastic bags, or do they need to be dumped in a dumpster unbagged? Ask them if they can calculate a weight for you so that you can calculate your diversion rate for the event. That's a really good thing to track. It can be kind of a hassle, but it's well worth it, because if you're saying our goal, maybe you start out with a goal of 50% diversion. You're not going to go for 90% in the first one, but just to find out, did you reach your goal? And if you didn't reach it, that's okay too, to say, hey, we got close, we didn't reach our goal, and next year we're going to try harder. People appreciate that, and they appreciate knowing, that you're trying, you're making an effort, regardless of whether you met your goal or not.
Julie?
You'll need to consider the collection bin. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, just a quick question.
Was there a question?
Yes.
Sure.
What recommendations do you have for finding like a good a good company to work with on composting, recycling, that kind of stuff? What should we look for in a partner?
Yeah, I think that I don't know that you're going to have a huge choice. Maybe in Lincoln and Omaha you might have more choices. I'd say almost everywhere else you won't really have too many choices. But I would start by just doing a little research online. Go to their website. Everybody has a list of things that they accept and things they don't accept. So if you know, for example, that you're going to serve beer and bottled beer, you might want to try to find a recycler that takes glass, and not all of them, most of them don't, but some do still. So that's the sort of thing. And then you definitely want to give them a call and say, look, I'm planning this event. Here's what I think I'm going to do. Get together with them in person if you can, and try to figure out, or you can do it by the phone. Just try to figure out, logistically, how would this work if they worked with you. So I would just make some inquiries. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sorry, I had remuted myself. That's
okay.
perfect.
Okay, all right. Well, you'll need to, when you're thinking about collection bins and their placement, you'll also want to find out, and this is, again, talking to your recycler or composter, will you need a staging area? And if for a larger event, you probably do want a staging area. You're going to have individual collection bins here and there, but then as they fill up, you're going to have them taken, all the bags or whatever, taken to a staging area, which is a larger dumpster or roll-off or something like that, and that stuff will be emptied into there. So those are the kind of things you need to think about and again, work out with your hauler. And then you'll want to identify what metrics you want to keep track of. And I'd say at a minimum, you'll want to keep track of your diversion rate. So you'll want to track, the whole amount of materials generated, and then how much, if you do composting, how much the compost weighed, how much the recycling weighed, and how much the landfill waste weighed, and then add that all up, and then you can divide the amount of, say, your recycling by that total weight to get your diversion rate in recycling and your diversion rate in composting, et cetera. And you might want to normalize that by tracking, if possible, the number of people that attend the event. So you can even think about, okay, it looks like we generated 2.2 pounds per person at this event. How can we make that better? So next year, if you have a recurring event, you can try to figure out ways that you can reduce that per person rate. So once you've done your due diligence, you can think about exhibit vendors and caterers. And for events with multiple food and beverage vendors and other types of exhibitors, you want to think through the materials and components of your event to identify the materials that are usually landfilled, and then decide which ones you might want to ban. So, it's very useful to provide a list for your caterers of acceptable items. So you might say all supplies and handouts must be reusable, recyclable, or compostable. You might list your banned items. So you might say we don't want any bottled or canned beverages, no styrofoam, no plastic bags or wraps. You might want to think about where the food is sourced. So you might say we want all locally grown food. Now, some of these things are not attainable, but here again, it just depends on how deeply you want to dive into this. And it doesn't have to be this deep, but these are things that these are ideas that you could do if you really wanted to think about a low footprint event. You also might want to ask them if they donate their leftovers on a regular basis, and could they make arrangements to do so instead of composting or landfilling any leftovers. And of course, this is not leftovers from people that have purchased or gotten the food already, but anything they prepared that was never consumed in the first place. There's a Good Samaritan Food Donation Act that protects you from civil and criminal liability when you donate to a nonprofit organization, and it sets a floor of gross negligence. So you would have to know that your conduct is likely to be harmful to the health of another person for you to be in any sort of hot water if you donated food. But there's a lot of food that goes right into the landfill that could be consumed by people or animals, if nothing else, and that we should do our best to try to make sure that anything we use ends up with its highest and best use, even if it's not consumed during the event. Now, for exhibitors, you might request that they use the least amount of packaging possible, or to remove the packaging before they distribute the little tchotchkes maybe they're giving out. You might just say no tchotchkes. You might say only useful items. Don't just give away junk that is landfilled. Give out useful items. You could also say we don't want any candy wrappers or chip bags or anything like that we know will have to be landfilled. So it's up to you. You can think of any kind of guidelines, and you might want to, again, know and understand what your recycler takes and doesn't take. Some won't take neon or fluorescent colored paper, so you might just say don't bring that kind of stuff because it can't be recycled. Now, a lot of people are wondering where to get certified compostable products, and there is a great resource. It is bpiworld.org. So their website is www.bpi, that's Biodegradable Products, International. So it's bpiworld.org. And this organization is a nonprofit, and they test all items that are sent to them to be tested to see if they're compostable. And if they're lined with plastic, for example, they will not be certified compostable. There are other liners that are not plastic liners that are compostable. They test plastic bags, they test to-go containers, coffee cups, plates, et cetera, et cetera. So you can go there and see a list of all the items and all the brands that are truly compostable, and they're certified. There are some local and online distributors. I just created a short list for you. But in Nebraska, you can go to National Everything Wholesale, which is Costco, also known by Costco in Omaha, and you can order online through them or go to their store, and they have a pretty wide selection of compostable products. Hockenberg's in Lincoln and Omaha, it's a restaurant supply store, carries world-centric brand items, and it's a good company. They're all compostable. Cisco in Lincoln carries a limited supply of compostable products. Egan Supply in Omaha does as well. And then to look online, you can go to Staples, carries a certain number of things. It's still limited, but a certain number of things. World-centric is, like I had mentioned before, is a good company. And Eco Products out of Boulder makes a lot of compostable items too, and recyclable.
Yep. And I do want to sneak in a quick little plug, if that's okay. So is that all right, Julie?
Certainly.
Okay. National Everything Wholesale is actually a member of GROW Nebraska. So if you are a member of GROW Nebraska, they'll actually work with you to get you discounts on their products as well.
Good to know. Great. Okay, well, thank you for that. Now, a note on bottled water here. The note is avoid at all costs. Bottled water is very expensive. It has a huge footprint. It takes a lot of water to create the plastic bottles that the water goes in. And as you've probably learned, I'm sure that, the water isn't any better quality than tap water. And you have an alternative here now in Nebraska. Aqua Systems has a mobile hydration station now that they will actually drive to your event, and it's a trailer, and they hook it up to your water supply, either your municipal water supply or your facility supply, and it actually filters water and dispenses it in little taps. And they use this at the GROW Nebraska Harvest of Hope concert with Neil Young and Willie Nelson in is that Neely, Nebraska? Or is that right? I can't remember where it was. But anyway, they use that, and there was a huge number, I don't know, 8,000 people there or something like that, and everyone had water, and they had their own drink dispenser, reusable containers. They actually sold containers there and made up any revenue they might have lost by selling bottled water, by selling their own reusable containers that people could fill up there. And so, you could use that hydration station even with recyclable or compostable cups that you would dispense, or durable cups that you would dispense, and save so much waste that would be going to the landfill or even to the recycling center. But again, it's kind of silly to use bottled water when tap water is so readily available. So I want to get into a little bit about advertising and publicity on events. This is really important because with a zero waste event, nobody's done this before, so you need to give people a little time to process what this is and remind them. So you want to announce it before the event that this is going to be a zero waste event. You don't have to get into details at that point. During the event, you'll want to kick things off. If you have the opportunity to make any announcement at the beginning to say, this is a zero waste event, here's where the tents are, there are people there that can help you figure out where to put things, just be sure and do that. Our goal is X percentage of diversion, etc. And then post-event publicity, again, just reporting on how it went, how well the event went, along with whoever you honored or whatever you gave away or whatever happened, you can brag about your diversion rate. So, as I said, during the event, you can make an announcement and remind people about it. If you have vendors and exhibitors or caterers, be sure and let them know that it's their job to tell people when you're done with this sandwich, you can put this compostable plate in the compost bin, and they're right over there, or if you have any leftover food, that can also go in the compost bin. So you're just, have everyone you can who's part of your event be involved and help people understand what they're supposed to do. And that's the biggest hurdle. People don't know what to do. They want to do the right thing, but they just don't know what it is. So zero waste stations are important, and there's just a few rules of thumb with zero waste stations. First of all, you always want to place landfill, recycling, and composting bins in a row, immediately next to one another, so that you're creating a zero waste station. You don't want them 2 steps away, because 2 steps away is often too far for people to walk. They'll just throw it wherever they think is convenient. So you have to have them next to one another. The second thing is you always want to have color-coded signs and bins. Black is for landfill, blue is for recycling, and green is for organics. And we want to always do it that way because we want to standardize things so people don't have to think. They just see that and they know what they're supposed to do. Always use, at a minimum, images on the signs that show what belongs in each bin. And if you do your planning well enough, you can actually customize signs that you can get through Recycle Across America, or by making your own signs and have pictures of those actual items on that sign. Even better is if you have the actual pieces, you have the actual plate or the cup or whatever it is attached to the bin where it belongs. So there's no question that people know what to do and where things belong. Now, for landfill, you may not plan for anything to be in there, but if you know of, I don't know, candy wrappers or something that would belong in there, you could have either a picture or an actual candy wrapper that would go there. But you can get great standardized signs from Recycle Across America, which is a nonprofit organization based in Minneapolis, and this is their project is to spread these standardized signs all over America, so that wherever you go, you'll know what you're supposed to do. And we're currently working with the Lincoln Airport to put some compost, recycling, and landfill bins and use these signs there. And we're working with Downtown Lincoln Association as well, and they're going to be using these same signs. And we're hoping to help spread this word all over Nebraska, that these standardized signs will help eliminate confusion for your events and for your town and anywhere you go. WasteCap Nebraska also, this is a little shameless plug for us, but we have some Go Zero zero waste stations that are actually tents, and these tents have 3 openings on one side, and on the inside we have cardboard boxes that we line with plastic liners. We have a clear liner for recycling, a black liner for landfill, and an actual compostable plastic liner for compost. And we have signs on the outside, and we can also attach those actual items on the outside. These tents are great for outdoor events because they actually have stakes, so you can stake them down, and they have these air vents in the back side of it, so if it's a very windy day, they don't blow over, the air just blows through. But they're also useful for indoor events, and they're, because they're a tent, it's like a little pup tent, but they're tall enough that they have a presence. So it's something that you can't miss, and that's really useful to have. So we have those for rent. They're $25 per event, per tent. And so if you're interested in that, I can direct you to the person who's in charge of that here in WasteCap, or you can go to our website and learn more about them there. A note on volunteers. So if you have a big enough event, or maybe it's just your employees, you want to make sure that they are fully trained so that they can help people at your event know what to do. You might consider, if the event is large enough and you're using zero waste stations, whether they're one of our tents or whether they're just something that you put together, to have a volunteer stand next to that and help people know where to put, what to put where. And when we do events with our zero waste, our Go Zero stations, we actually have our volunteers wear nitrile gloves, because even if you're standing there, and the people are coming fast and furious, you're going to get some mistakes made. And what we try to do is just, as these mistakes are made, just pick off the top. And you may be in charge, your volunteer or employee may be in charge of 2 or 3 stations, but as you're walking around monitoring those stations and helping people, you're wearing those gloves, so you can just take off the top. We're not asking people to dig into it, but just take off the top any contamination and put it in its correct bin. Because what happens is, as soon as people see, this paper plate in the recycling bin when it should be in the composting bin, that's what they do too. So you have to monitor. And I feel like this is going to be an evolution, that someday we're all going to be used to this and it'll be crystal clear what we're supposed to do. But right now, none of us really know. So we need help. So in summary, you want to develop a plan well in advance in tandem with your general event planning so that this zero waste planning becomes an integral part of your event. You want to make it easy for your attendees to know what they are supposed to do by preparing them early and often to the fact that this will be a zero waste event. You want to engage your managers, your employees, vendors, caterers, exhibitors, haulers, everyone from the beginning so that you've got this well planned and everyone is on the same page and they know what their role is. I didn't touch on this a whole lot, but you for sure use technology to reduce the need for paper through your registration and announcements as much as possible. If you do signage, and if it's an event that you have over and over again, try to avoid things like dates on the signs and things like that, so that you can reuse some of these things the next year, the next time you do it. And support zero waste behavior through good signage, through announcements, through assistance, maybe even through things like games or incentives, possibly, to make sure that people are engaged and involved, and make it fun. Make it fun so people are getting into it. So that's really all I have, and I'd be happy to take any questions. I don't know if you have to unmute if you have any questions.
What was the name of the company that does the hydration station?
Oh, yeah. That's Aqua Systems, and they're in Lincoln. They have kind of their side shoot company is Springo, like spring with an O on the end. But if you contacted Aqua Systems, then, they would connect you to Dan Warren, who's in charge of that project.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you have maybe a list of some commonly banned items?
Oh, I don't really have a list. I guess it's really kind of up to you. I would certainly ban styrofoam. That's an easy one to ban because there are so many other options than that, and that's always has to be landfilled. I think plastic bags would be a really good thing to ban because plastic bags, that's another thing in a MRF, a materials recovery facility. If you have single stream recycling, those plastic bags, all they do is get caught up in the machinery, and then they cost a lot to repair the machinery and clean things out. So that's not a bad idea to ban plastic bags. Otherwise, it really depends on what your goals are for the event. If the less waste you generate, even if it's recycled, the easier it is. And it just depends on, so much on logistics, so many factors on your vendor, on your venue, on, the services available in your community. So it's really hard to say what you should ban. But I would just say if you're thinking through it, just try to identify things that you know of that cannot be recycled or composted, and those are the things you want to go to, especially if they're generated in large quantities. Those are the things you're going to want to go to ban. So it's just sort of a judgment call.
Is food waste that's left on, like, compostable or recyclable plates and utensils and whatnot, is that...
Yes. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, how often does that cause problems when they're trying to recycle or compost?
Well, food waste is good for compost because food waste is actually one of the greatest, it's got a lot of nutrients in it, so it's a good thing for compost. So food waste left on a recyclable thing, like if you have, say, yogurt containers and there's a lot of yogurt left, pretty much if that's not cleaned out, you're going to have to landfill it. But this is where you'd say, okay, we're going to serve yogurt here in these containers. How much does it need to be cleaned out before, so that it can be recycled? Does it have to be, you need to find it. It's very nuanced. So in that respect, it's easier to use compostable. If you have a composting company that can take your stuff it's easier if you're going to use disposables at all to use compostables, because then any food that's in anything can just be composted, whereas recyclables need to be a little bit cleaner. Now, beverage cans and bottles, usually they're pretty well cleaned out if it's just liquid, and they can be recycled. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. Are there any other questions for Julie?
Oh, do you have any examples of like games or incentives? You mentioned that was a good way to get people to do it, but do you have some template, like if it's a game, is there a template somewhere or somebody that we might go to get ideas?
Did we lose Julie? I'm wondering if Julie lost her connection. Is everybody else still here?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, Julie was talking when she first started the call that they use voice over IP for their phone lines, and she wasn't sure if she was going to be able to, if she was going to have issues or not. So hopefully she'll call back in here. So sorry about the delay.
I have an idea that I've heard of people doing. I think it was Keep Skylar Beautiful, a Keep America Beautiful affiliate, and at a school concession stand, they would give kids a gummy worm if they brought in a can or a bottle to recycle. So they just had a big container of gummy worms, and then every time a kid would bring in a recyclable, they'd get a free gummy worm. And I thought that was a pretty great way to get their area picked up, like the track meets and football games and stuff.
That's awesome. That's a really good idea.
And then, too, with gummy worms, you're not creating any more candy wrapper waste.
Mhm. For the folks on the line, how many events do you guys tend to host in a year?
I don't know.
Yeah, this is Crystal Powers, and we are just in the scaling up phase of our business, and our plan is to host maybe like 2 big events a year, but to regularly, we're going to have a farm store and then an event space with that. And so to maybe host like birthday parties and small corporate retreats, kind of have an small event space that people could rent out. So I'm looking at, well, how do I manage that so that on a regular basis as well we can stay as low waste as possible.
That's
on top
wonderful.
of the big event. Mm.
And Crystal, you're with Darby Springs, correct?
Yeah, that's us.
Awesome. Oh, this will be fun. I'm hoping Julie will be able to pop back on. Let's see if she emailed me quick here.
Are there, for those of us on the line, are there folks that are putting on a zero waste events? Like if we had questions about how it went?
The best person to talk to would actually be Julie, WasteCap Nebraska in general. We've had a few people who've tried to, reduce the diversion rate, but I don't think we've had any other members successfully pull off a zero waste event. So, Julie's the expert. She's kind of leading the campaign. So we're all trying to follow her example.
Well, and I think it's one of those things that I have for the events that are just like ourselves hosting it, that's probably a lot more straightforward than when you get a bigger event and you've got all these, you've got other vendors, you've got caterers. That's when it gets a lot harder. And I think, like she says, it's a learning curve for all of us.
Yes.
One thing that I've seen at some of the events that we want to try to recreate, not the right word, try to do as well. So a lot of the homebrew, or not homebrew events, but the microbrew, craft brew events, you get a glass as part of attending, and the glass has like the event name and all that, and then you use that same glass, and they have rinse stations.
Ooh.
So you just rinse your glass in between each tasting, but then you're using the same glass, and so all of the beer vendors are on kegs rather than having bottles or having a gazillion single-use cups. They use it as, like I said, a glassware that you can rinse.
That's awesome.
Plus, then you get, and then like most of the time you have sponsors, and so most of them, so one side of the glass has the event name and logo, and the back side, your big sponsors get to put their logos on it, and so you can use it as a way to drive sponsorship as well.
That's an awesome idea.
And then, like, another thing that I thought of, since we're just filling up time, we're trying to brainstorm, because we're doing ice cream, and so it's somewhatly perishable, and so how do we keep it cold enough and transport it and do that in a way that's low waste, reusable, and get rid of bags. So I was looking at some of the different things out there, and there's some really cool cold storage bags that you can get your name monogrammed on. So we're looking at using how can we promote reusable, it's not packaging, but rather than plastic bags is what I'm getting at.
Yes.
So or styrofoam coolers or something like that. So we're looking at getting reusable bags and both cooler bags and just like regular bags, and trying to promote, have like a rewards thing so that you get, if you bring your bag back, you get like stamps or something, and when you get so many stamps, you get free food, since we're a farm.
Yeah.
So you get some sort of free food.
Yeah, well, I know a lot of grocery stores that do like little incentives where they just give you like 5 or 10 cents off when you bring in like a cloth bag instead of plastic. But I really like that idea. You get free food.
Yeah, well, and my other thought is then it's also marketing, because we'll have our logo on the side of that bag, and hopefully, as they're carrying it around, that's a small marketing piece, but I figure that's a good thing too.
Oh, yeah. Perfect. Well, did Julie get back on? I thought I heard somebody chime back in. Well, I'm not sure. All right. Well, we might just go ahead and wrap up here. I will be sending all of you Julie's contact information, so if you have any additional questions, you'll be able to contact her directly. So I'm sorry about the inconvenience. That's the one bad thing about having a call-in training. But it is nice that we can reduce waste by not having to travel. But I would, before all of you chime off, I would like to let you know we are having in June another free Third Thursday training. And our speaker for June is going to be Angela White from the Nebraska Tourism Commission. And she's going to be sharing ideas on how your business can partner with them for free, low-cost, and paid advertising that can reach up to 500,000 visitors a year. She's also going to discuss other possibilities like being a part of their travel guide and media tours and things of that nature. So if you have a destination a great training to be a part of, and I will be sending you out the link to sign up for that one as well in the follow-up email. So does anybody need anything before we call it good?
No. Thank you for hosting.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for participating. So, we'll say thank you to Julie as well. So everybody, I hope you have a great day.
All right. Bye. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.